Okay, welcome everybody to a class on present perfect with when and before and after and if and until, unless, providing, once, as soon as. You might say with subordinating conjunctions that talk about the future very often. Now, I know that these words don't only talk about the future, I know, and we will talk about when they refer to the past and the present in a second. But what we're going to really focus on is when we can use present perfect with when. And the reason is I'm well aware that I teach my students never use present perfect if you say or know when. But, yeah, and I think this is a very important but, and perhaps I should have made this clearer earlier. This is only true when you're talking about the past. It's not true when you're talking about the future. If the when subclause, subordinate clause, if the when subordinate clause is a future tense clause, then you certainly can use present perfect with when. Okay, and some of you may not know that, because I know that lots of the grammar books really emphasize that you can't use present perfect with when. You've got to use past simple. Well, that's true when you're dealing with the past, but it's not true when you're dealing with the future. And when can refer to a future moment, yeah, and it doesn't only refer to past moments. Now, the same logic actually goes with before and after. When you're talking about the past, okay, they're going to be used with past simple or maybe past perfect. But when you're talking about the future, you will see present perfect with these two. So very similar to when. Okay, so that's why I wanted to focus on this, just because I'm well aware that you get taught this, but there are exceptions, except when the verb refers to the future. In other words, except future time clauses. Okay, so let's have a look. What do I mean future time clauses? Well, let's have a look at what I don't mean. Yeah, here are two examples of past time clauses. And look, you should be able to really clearly see that it's about the past because it starts with yesterday. And I've done that on purpose, of course. So yesterday, when I met him, not have met, yeah? Yesterday, when I met him, he looked upset. You might think, Dave, what about he was looking upset? It is possible, but look is usually stative, okay? He looks happy, he looks sad. You don't normally say he is looking happy, he is looking sad. You might, I agree, but usually it's stative, so that's why it doesn't need to be in past continuous. But have met is not possible here. You can't say yesterday when I have met him, because when is referring to a past moment, yesterday, it will not be have met. It will always be yesterday when I met him. We know when, past simple. Here's another past time clause. Last week, when I got back to work, yeah, or when I got to work, no one was there. Yeah, you can't say when I have got to work. It's not correct. It's wrong. And so if you're referring to the past with when, I'm pleased to say that the rule you have learnt is correct. Yeah, you can't use present perfect with when we're talking about the past. Now let's look at when in the present. And I like to think of when in the present as zero conditional. Yeah, it is zero conditional. When you pull the plug out, yeah, of the bath, the water drains. It goes, you can also say the water goes down the drain. The water goes down the drain, the water drains. This is zero conditional. It's always true. It's present simple, present simple. It's just when X happens, Y happens. It's just an observation, yeah, that this always happens. It's always true. And so that's how we use when with present simple. And yeah, you don't usually see present perfect here because you're talking about something which regularly happens, always happens. So we use present simple. When you add sugar to potassium chlorate, it explodes. Yeah, this always happens. Yeah, I've seen it. It always happens. When you add sugar to an unstable compound like potassium chlorate, it explodes. Okay, so that's past, that's present. Now let's look at future with when, first of all, although we will look at some other subordinating conjunctions that follow exactly the same logic. And what I want you to notice with this future form, I like to think of it as first conditional, although I know it's not. It's not a conditional. It doesn't have a condition. It doesn't have an if in there. When we use a when, there's no condition. And so I wouldn't call it first conditional, but it does follow this structure of subordinating conjunction, yeah, if, present simple or present perfect or present continuous.